everybody, and welcome back to another episode of This Week's Stoke. I know the Olympics are coming up, so don't worry. I'm bringing my best foot forward and bringing on my best athletes to get some thoughts as we're moving into the Olympics, and also just some thoughts on ski racing in general as we're halfway through this season. So I'm super excited to bring on Tommy Ford today to talk to you a little bit about how he has gone through some injuries, some great results, and is heading into the Olympics. So he has some great advice to be able to share with you guys on ways that you can go through different mindsets as you're progressing through your seasons as well. So Tommy, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. And I'm super excited to dive right in.
Thanks, Parker. Yeah, we'll see how great the advice is.
All good. But I think the first thing we need to do is just talk a little bit about you and your background in ski racing. I know you've been in the sport for a long time. I remember watching the Truth in Motion video a long time ago when you were the rookie, and now you're kind of the veteran on the scene. So can you talk a little bit about your path in ski racing up to now?
That seems like a time warp to me. I felt like I was a young guy not too long ago, and here I am, one of the older athletes on the team. Not the oldest. Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of started pretty quick. I had a quick progression once I made the team, and then kind of in the eyes of results plateaued for a while. I had some injuries and whatnot, and but still going, still feeling good, and had a more recent injury, which hadn't been feeling as good until more recent. So.
Yeah, no, definitely. And you've kind of been around ski racing your whole life, really, as like a kid born in Hanover, went to Dartmouth, but also just ski racing, Mount Bachelor, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you've been part of that forever. And now we can dive a little bit more into the past couple of seasons, because really you had that incredible season in 2019, 2020 with your big win at Beaver Creek, which awesome, by the way, so exciting to watch that. And then a couple other great races in Italy, and then we had some injury come into that and COVID. So can you talk a little bit about how you went from this epic season to then unfortunately a little bit of injury and COVID?
I mean, COVID was going on before I got hurt, and it was it was tough. It was added stress as far as like testing and having to steer clear and try to stay healthy the whole time. I would say up until now, it's gotten a little more, I've gotten more used to it. I don't know if the stress is initially less, but we've all gotten used to the protocols a bit more. And yeah, I mean, it's been really fun to find some new speed the last couple of years. And unfortunately, there are consequences at times. And I was definitely pushing the limits last year. And that came down pretty hard, but it wasn't like a huge loss at the time because I was just dealing with the pain and the struggles of recovery for the next couple of months after I fell. Eventually, it felt more of a loss. And it's like, okay, it's like, what do I do with myself now? And which turned out to be lots of physical therapy.
Yeah, you touched on a really good point there. And it's like, yes, ski racing definitely has injury. As we've seen it pretty constant. You're throwing yourself down the hill. You're really trying to push those limits, like you mentioned. And yeah, sometimes there's injury. So what kind of advice can you give about when you have this injury, that comeback period of time? You mentioned there's this time where you're like, wow, what do I do? I'm supposed to be skiing, but I can't. What does that time really help you with reflection, or is there a time that you can really build up your muscles and your strength and try and make the most of the situation?
Yeah, so I broke my femur as well in 2013, and that really taught me a lot. And this second injury I've had is a different beast altogether. And both injuries really taught me to learn more about my own anatomy, just to see like, okay, what was actually injured and what is affected by that injury, like what muscles are connected to the tendons that connect to the ligaments. And I really dive into that, and it helps me with some imagery when I'm healing, especially when doing specific like motions, like knee flexion or knee extension. But the first 3, 4, 5, 6 months are mainly just healing and like just activating a little bit of muscle. You're not really looking to gain strength. You're just letting the surgeon do the work and then your body do the work, which is a lot of passiveness in a way. Not necessarily passive in the sense of not doing anything. You really are. I had enjoy like eating good foods and taking time to really focus on myself and breathe and turn inward and be present, even while I'm not moving and doing exciting things, because it's really easy to get sucked into video games or Netflix or whatever. I read a lot of books, and yeah, I think it's worth taking those moments to sit with yourself as well.
Yeah, it's a really big change of pace. You're constantly on the go as a ski racer, especially on the World Cup. And yes, no, it is not ideal to ever be injured, but to be able to slow down for a second and to, like you said, get back with your thoughts and really think about what you're doing, how you're doing it, and really kind of that mindset, I think is super valuable. And so now we can kind of move a little bit past it because you're through that injury, you're through that recovery, you've been doing a lot of PT. How are you feeling now back on snow?
Back on snow, definitely still dealing with some pain and some mobility issues in my knee, but it's feels the best when I'm actually skiing and skiing fast. So that's great.
I'll take that.
Yeah, yeah, it's been a long time to get back on snow, but I'm thankful for that.
Yeah, and so those initial thoughts of coming back on snow must have been crazy, right? You kind of think about those things that you've been missing and then to get right back into it. Do you find this like rejoy for the sport ever that you're like, holy smokes, I miss this so much. I can't wait to get back into gates. I can't wait to get back racing, kind of this energy and fire that you kind of missed during that injury phase.
Yeah, there was a moment like had gotten on snow and been doing some slow drills and whatnot, and it hadn't quite hit me yet. But once I started to like arc and like go a little bit faster and feel the wind in my face, it's like, oh yeah, this is why I do this. And that was really a great moment, just a fulfilling moment. And as far as like getting back into the gates and all that, it's been a challenge, and it's been work to recover from those days and to push through the fears that come with it. So it's also familiar ground, so it kind of like just kind of got back into my pace of things too.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And so now that we can kind of talk about that post being back on snow, we kind of have to hit the Olympics a little bit. So this is going to be your third Olympics, which is going to be super exciting, but is also, I think, going to be very different, not only from a skiing standpoint, but also from the fact that it is COVID still. And so you've experienced two normal, in a sense, Olympics. And this one, I think, is going to be very different. What are your thoughts going into it as you're probably leaving for Beijing next week?
Yeah, we're leaving next Wednesday, and
Yep.
it is already very stressful and lots more paperwork than normal. And like having to line up the timing of tests and coordinating the tests in general, and just having to be aware of your spatial awareness, like wherever you are. It's just a little heightened right now, and we have a great staff that's been working behind the scenes for more than a year trying to make things smooth when it comes down to it, like right now, and it's working. But definitely more virtual things happening than years past, so it's a little different. I feel like I'm almost doing more admin work than training.
That's funny. And then do you think the experience as a whole is going to be really different, or do you think you guys will still have the same kind of overwhelming excitement experience? I don't know if you're going to have a ton of fans. Is that going to change it for you at all?
Yeah, there aren't going to be many fans around, or any. I don't know what
Yeah.
the Chinese are allowing for the actual Chinese. No foreign spectators at all. And yeah, it's going to be sad to be missing family and friends in the crowd, and just the pure numbers and excitement of the crowd and the volunteers. And it's pretty special to see that energy. I think that there's still going to be that feeling among the athletes and volunteers that are going to be there. It sounds like they do a good job, like making it feel like a pretty normal games, but the people are a big part of it.
Yeah, no, for sure. And so then I guess it's really kind of a question of the hill. No one's really skied this hill before. What are your thoughts as you're kind of Mr. GS now, hanging in and going in to see this new hill that no one's been on? The snow could be very different. What are you thinking about going into that race?
Yeah, I mean, I've heard it's supposed to be cold and pretty dry. And actually, Mr. GS actually sent some photos that were taken in the summer, I think when they were building or something. I don't know when they were taken, but got a little taste for the hill, but haven't put foot on it, and no one's done test event. So it'll be kind of interesting. It'll definitely even the playing field in a sense, and it'll be pretty fun.
Yeah, no, I think that that's definitely an interesting factor to it that nobody's skied on it before. So it's not like if you've been on Adelboden a million times or sold in every year, this one's new. No one knows what to expect. And I think that's a pretty cool way to test everybody's limits and really push as they're going into this race. And so finally, how do you feel confidence wise going into the race? I know you've had to kind of have a quick return to snow, and it's crazy to be going back right into the Olympics. But like you mentioned, it is something that is natural to you. You've been doing it for so long. Like I said, I'm calling you the new Mr. GS. How do you feel going into this big race?
Um, just the fact that I am able to ski and have been able to get into gates and actually feel some speed is really special to me, and I'm just really grateful to be able to do this and be able to ski and be named to the team, and essentially as a wild card. So I have a lot. It's like really cool that there's faith in me in that sense. And yeah, it's just I'm gonna keep rolling with it as it goes, and we'll see how things roll out of it.
Awesome, Tommy. Well, thank you so much for going through some of these thoughts with me and really just talking through how to manage some injury recovery and then going into big races after you haven't for a while. I'm super excited to watch how the Olympics goes. We're cheering you on and good luck with everything. But thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Parker. Pleasure being on.